Welcome. Today, we're getting into something that affects every single one of us, every single night, and that's sleep. We're going to unpack this really powerful and honestly often hidden connection between how well we rest and how sharp our brain is, no matter what age you are.
You know that feeling, right? Groggy, can't focus, just completely out of it after a bad night. But the real question we have to ask is, what is actually happening inside our heads? Is it just a temporary brain fog, or could something more serious, maybe even damaging, be going on? Let's find out.
So, while you think you're just lying there, your brain is anything but off the clock. It's actually running a super important night shift. It's doing maintenance, it's cleaning out waste, and crucially, for what we're talking about today, it's organizing and filing away your memories.
Okay, so to get why sleep is so magical for your mind, you first got to understand how memory works. It's basically a three-step process. During the day, you have encoding. That's you learning new stuff. And later, you have retrieval. That's you remembering it. But that critical middle step, number 2, consolidation, where your brain actually makes those memories stick, that happens almost entirely while you are asleep. And what that means is if you mess with the brain's night shift, you mess with the whole memory system. Simple as that. When your sleep is broken up or just not long enough, the brain's ability to lock in what you learned gets seriously hobbled. Those memories just get left in this temporary holding zone, making them way harder to pull up the next day.
And listen, we are not just talking about pulling an all-nighter for an exam. The science shows that even consistently getting a little less sleep than you need, 6 hours a night instead of 8, it leads to a real measurable drop in how well your memory performs. It's like a slow leak that has this massive cumulative effect over time. Okay, let's switch gears and talk about kids and teenagers. For their developing brains, the fallout from poor sleep can be huge, and honestly, it's so often completely misunderstood. Now, this is a really big one. When a kid is struggling in school or acting out, we jump to labels like lazy, unmotivated, or even ADHD. But what so many of us don't realize is that in children, sleepiness often looks like hyperactivity. Their little brains are literally fighting to stay awake, and that can look like them bouncing off the walls. And the research here is just crystal clear. Not getting enough sleep is directly tied to a weaker working memory, making it tough to follow instructions. It causes worse attention in class and, no surprise, leads directly to lower grades and more behavioral problems. So that kid struggling in math might not need more tutoring. They might just need more sleep. But it's not just for kids, right? For us adults, the stakes are just as high. It hits our work performance, our general sense of well-being, and our long-term brain health. Let's look at 2 of the biggest culprits behind our bad sleep. First up is obstructive sleep apnea, or OSA. This is so much more than just loud snoring. It's a medical condition where your airway actually closes over and over again while you sleep, causing you to stop breathing. Your brain then has to jolt itself awake just enough to get you breathing again, and this can happen hundreds of times a night, completely shattering your sleep. And the hit on your brain power is just staggering. I mean, look at this number from recent studies. Nearly 60% of people with OSA have some kind of cognitive impairment. That shows up as brain fog, trouble concentrating in meetings, just feeling a step behind all day. The other big one is chronic insomnia. And no, this isn't just about having a few bad nights after a stressful week. We're talking about a relentless, persistent struggle to sleep that goes on for months, basically robbing your brain of that critical downtime it needs to function. And the long-term risk here is really serious. One major study found that older adults with chronic insomnia had about a 40% higher risk of developing mild cognitive impairment or even dementia compared to people who slept well. That's a huge number. So this all leads us to the really big and, kind of scary question that all this research is pointing to. Is there a direct link between a lifetime of bad sleep and diseases like Alzheimer's? Now, we've got to be really precise here. No credible scientist is going to say that poor sleep causes Alzheimer's, but the evidence is getting stronger and stronger that chronic sleep disorders like apnea and insomnia are a significant risk factor. They put a kind of stress on the brain that can speed up that cognitive decline. But here is the most important and most hopeful part of this whole story. This is not a one-way street. Unlike other risk factors we can't change, sleep problems are treatable. And when we treat them, we can often stabilize and sometimes even improve brain function. Seriously, thinking about your sleep is a proactive, brain protective strategy you can start today.
Okay, so let's get practical. We've talked about the science, now let's talk about real life. What are the specific warning signs you should be looking for, either in your kids or maybe in yourself?
For kids and teens, you want to watch for loud, regular snoring. That's a big one. Any kind of gasping or pauses in their breathing at night are immediate red flags. But also keep an eye out for those daytime signs we mentioned, a sudden drop in grades or that hyperactivity and inattention. Remember, a sleepy kid often looks like a hyperactive kid. For adults, the signs can be pretty similar. Loud snoring, especially if your partner says you stop breathing. Waking up feeling exhausted even after a full night in bed is a classic sign. And please pay attention to daytime sleepiness. If you're dozing off in meetings, or worse, at a red light, that is a serious signal that something is wrong.
So, what do you do if some of those red flags are sounding a little too familiar? The great news is there's a really clear, actionable path forward. Let's just walk through it.
We can break this down into a pretty simple 3-level plan. Level 1 is just building a foundation of good sleep habits. This is for everyone. Level 2 is about adopting smarter habits around work and school. And level 3 is knowing when it's time to call on the pros and get a medical evaluation.
Level 1, you can start tonight. This is all about setting the stage for good sleep. A consistent schedule, even on weekends, is huge. Make your bedroom a cool, dark, quiet cave. And probably the biggest one for most of us, put away the screens an hour or so before bed. That blue light really messes with your brain's sleep signals.
But sometimes good habits just aren't enough. You have to know when a sleep problem might have crossed over into a medical issue. So here's the rule of thumb. If the snoring is loud and comes with those breathing pauses, if the daytime sleepiness is just severe, or if insomnia has been a regular thing for more than 3 months, it's time to talk to your doctor. So what's the bottom line here? It's that sleep isn't a luxury. It is a biological non-negotiable for a high-performing brain. Protecting your memory, your focus, and your long-term brain health isn't just about puzzles or diet. It's about what you do every single night. The power to build a sharper brain is, quite literally, in your hands. So are you ready to make the rest a priority?